everybody, welcome back to video 2. You made it through video 1 and you came back for more. I'm so happy. Hopefully you got to know the pieces in video 1, and hopefully you've been doing a little practice against our buddy Martin here. Heck, maybe you've already beaten him and maybe you're feeling confident enough to start moving up the ranks, or maybe you're playing live people, or maybe you're just still messing around against Martin here. It's all good either way. What I want to focus on this video, because, it's one thing to know where all these pieces go, and the pawn moves up and they capture, diagonally, and the knight does jumps. This guy's a vertical and horizontal guy, whereas this guy's a diagonal guy. That's all great to know, but without any kind of just sense of something, then you're just moving these pieces all over the place, and you're losing pieces and then you're gaining pieces, and you just don't know how to make any progress. And so, so that's what I want to focus on this video, is call it your first 7 moves, because, and I'll even show you which pieces you're going to move for your first 7. These 2, these 4, and then, so that's 6 of your 7 moves, and then you're going to castle for your 7th move. You're either going to move your king this way or this way, and then kind of tuck him behind his little fortress of pawns. But let me explain what I mean. So this queen here is the most powerful piece in the game, and these rooks are second most powerful piece in the game. We talked in the first video about how rooks can sort of watch each other's back. You can line them up on the same row or the same column. And so that makes them really strong. Whereas bishops can't watch each other's back, because one's always stuck on white and one's always stuck on green. So they call these 4 your minor pieces. They're not as expendable and weak as these pawns, but they're not as powerful as the rooks or the queen. And so, so these 4 minor pieces, you want to get these guys into the game kind of early, because they're going to be your primary fighters early on. If you lose them, you lose them, but at least you're not losing one of your most powerful pieces. So you want to avoid, if possible, fighting with your queen or your rooks in the very beginning. And remember, this video is called the first 7 moves. So we're going to try not to move her or the rooks too early in the game, other than castling. Now, the problem is, we know that knights can jump over. So there's your first 2 moves right there if you want. But in order to free these bishops, we're going to need to get some pawns out of our way. So the second thing I want you to focus on in this video are these 4 squares. Generally speaking, the center of the board is where the action's at. And so if you can somehow get a bishop out here to one of these center squares, that bishop can control lots of territory, and he's guarding things, he's attacking things, and he can see a lot of things. Whereas if this bishop was over here on the side of the board, that's not bad. It's just he kind of only looks in 2 directions rather than in 4 directions. And so the spirit of the real goal, your goal, should be to get these 4 squares whenever possible, to try to aim your pieces towards the center. Same thing with your knights, right? You don't want to move him to the edge. If you do, his future hopping spots could be here or here. So he has 2 options. I guess he can go backward too. So I guess maybe he has 4 options. Whereas if you hop him here on his first move, then you kind of have lots of options to choose from. And you can still go backward if you need to. Wow. So look at all those different options. There's tons of them. Whereas if you go to the side of the board, you really don't have very many options. So that's the first thing to notice, is you want to aim towards the center whenever possible. And then the third thing is getting your king to safety, right? We don't want him to be in the center of the board all by himself. And so we want to tuck him away whenever possible. So let's just start here against Martin. Pick one of these 2 pawns. It really doesn't matter. I like to go 2 because it gets me into that center. Keeping in mind, we want to get the minor pieces into play. Let's go ahead and it really doesn't matter. Your bishop could come out 1, 2, 3, 4. Heck, I could even go all the way to the end, but there's a problem with this last square. One is his bishop could just capture me, so that'd be bad. And he moved this pawn in his first move, so even if that pawn was still sitting there, that that pawn could capture me too. So generally you don't bring your bishop all the way out to that square. That's kind of a no-no. But really any of these are pretty good options. The one exception might be this one, because then this pawn gets sort of stuck. And so maybe I would avoid that one and avoid this one. But really any of these other ones are pretty good. So you'd prefer not to box this guy in, right? He needs this pawn to get out of his way. And if you set this guy right in front of him, then this pawn's stuck, which means this guy is stuck, and then you're kind of bottled up for the game. So you really want your minor pieces out there fighting. So you gotta get out of their way. So let's just bring them right here. It's a good spot. And then generally I'm just gonna do these 7 moves, right? My 4 minors, these 2 pawns, and then I'm gonna castle probably on this side. Usually, if you want to castle the other way, you got to get your queen out of there too. But you know, as you get better in the game, you can start to also pay attention to what your opponent's doing. That's going to be an important key. So he just moved this out. So maybe Martin wants to take my pawn here. I don't know that he actually will, because it's Martin's not too good at chess either. I don't know. He might take my pawn. He might not. And so, you know, I could bring this guy out. I could bring this guy out. Or I could bring this pawn out. I'm going to do this because it protects my pawn, right? He's going to keep an eye on that pawn. So if Martin does jump at it, I can capture his bishop right back. So he would take my pawn, I would take his bishop. So I'm getting a better valued piece, and he's just getting a little pawn. Another way to protect that pawn would have been with this, because remember, he captures. So you can sort of pay attention to what Martin's doing over here. He's bringing his queen out early. I recommend you don't bring your queen out too early. You can if you want to, but I really want to get all my minor pieces into action first. And that is going to be your homework assignment, is to get all your minor pieces into action before you play any more chess, right? So let's bring this guy to right here. I don't want to bring him here because the queen could grab him. I don't want to put him here because the queen could grab him. So I am going to watch kind of what Martin's doing and say, well, I don't like this square. I don't like this square. I don't like this square. But this one looks pretty good. So let's go there. And Martin's still moving his queen around. And then all I have left is this guy. He's the only one that hasn't been brought into the battle yet. So let's bring him out. And he's threatening the queen. Oh, and he runs away. And then for the 7th move, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my 7th move is going to be a castle. And now my king's nice and safe. You want to do that early. Otherwise, Martin's not going to do a whole lot here. He seems to just be moving his queen around. But as you get better and better opponents, they're going to start to attack your king in the center here. So Martin's king is still sitting in the center. It's not clear how to get to him just yet, but little by little we'll start attacking him. And then from here the game is yours, right? So I think the focus of this video is move things whenever possible towards the center. Get your minor pieces into play, and then get your king to safety. If you follow those 3 things, now we have a nice solid plan for our first 7 moves, and then from here it's just whatever. So you're not going to learn this game overnight. You could watch YouTube videos all day on learning chess, and you're just not going to get any better at it. The only way to get better at this is just to play. So I got one more thing on this video that I want to show you, but then otherwise turn me off and go go find any chess opponent or chess website out there and just start playing. And that's how, and so, I could make terrible moves, right? I shouldn't call them terrible, but maybe I take my bishop here and he's going to capture me. No, he's not, because he's Martin. I could put him in check, right? And there he took me. So I got 2 pawns out of that, and he took my bishop. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. Let's bring this guy up. He's threatening his queen again, but he knew that. But he moved his queen in a spot where my queen can just take him, right? So this is it. Just keep learning, and you'll get better. And that's that. Okay, so I think I'm going to start adding a checkmate to the end of each video that I think is important to learn. I think without this, you could be whooping up on Martin and taking all his pieces, but then you still don't know how to squish that king in the corner, and how to get a checkmate. And so I think that's frustrating to new players. And so I want to start giving you some techniques on how to go about checkmating. We've learned 2 so far. One is when your king is behind like a wall of pawns, and he's stuck back here, and he can't get out because his own guys are in his way, and they prevent him from retreating, and then he just gets swallowed up on the back row. The other one we looked at is when he's up against the board, and you stick a queen all up in his face, and she's maybe guarded by somebody else, and there's nowhere for the king to go. He's smothered, or he's squished against the side of the board. This is another one. They call this a ladder mate, and it's pretty common in chess, especially towards the end game when you've wiped out most of the pieces on the board. And maybe you have 2 rooks, or maybe you have 2 queens, or maybe you have 1 queen and 1 rook. But the idea is simple. In that it's going to be like a ladder, so we're going to go step by step down the board here, and the point is the king has to get off these 2 rows because the rooks are covering him. So the king has to run, go up the board, do the same thing, check. Again, I got this row covered, so the king has to go up the board. You go again, and the king is forced yet again to go up. He's running towards my rooks, and the reason why is because if I were to check him again, he would just take me. And you wouldn't want that, right? So we kind of have an intermittent move here. I would hop this guy all the way. Sorry, I would hop this guy come back. What happened? I would probably hop this guy all the way to the end of the board. And he's free to move. He's not in check. He has to move somewhere, so he may as well walk towards my rook. And again, I still have this problem where if I check him now, I've got this whole back row covered, but now he's just going to take my rook over there, and I don't want that. So what you got to do, you got to run this guy to the other board. And now he's so old and slow, it's going to take him forever to get down to me. And so he can make 1 step toward me, but then I've got him in checkmate on the next row, on the next move. There's just nowhere for him to run to anymore. And so they call that a ladder mate because it's just like rungs of a ladder. You're just stepping your way down to the end of the board. And this works with 2 queens, obviously, too. In fact, it works even better if you have... here, let's do this. Walk him all the way to the other end of the board. Put him in check, and he can walk towards me. Put him in check. He can walk towards me. This time I can put him in check like this. He can't take me because she's got him covered. In fact, she's going to have him covered the whole way down. So all he can do is run. And then she's walking again. Can't go up. Can't stay here. So he's got to run. And he can't come over because... he's just fully boxed in here. So he just can go down the side of the board. And I keep walking him down. And this works with 2 queens, obviously. It's even more powerful with 2 queens. He's extra squished. Extra dead, is that a thing? So, so as you're playing Martin or other opponents, if you can kind of wipe out a bunch of the pieces and get a pawn to the end of the board and get a second queen to work with, or a queen and a rook, then you're in good business. So there you go. Try that one out. Otherwise, I will see you next time for the third lesson. I don't think you should be binging these like Netflix. I think you should be doing lots of practice games in between videos, with the spirit being that, yeah, you just watched me move out my minor pieces, try to control the center and castle, but you got to experience it, because your opponent here is going to be doing counter moves, and so you're going to be watching over these pawns the best you can, right? This guy guards, this guy guards. You could have put these guys here so that he guards and he guards. So there's lots of ways to kind of maneuver these pieces. You can also have setups like this, where this guy guards that guy, and this guy guards that guy, and this guy guards that guy, and that guy guards that guy. So, yeah, but the spirit is the same, and you've got to get that under your belt really before you're gonna start to get better at this game. Is working with these minor pieces. I see a lot of new players that come out and they just want to use their queen for every move. They want to go swallow up pawns and attack minor pieces and check the king, and they just are running around with their queen. And they're never really going to get better at chess because they're not focusing on their minor pieces. So good luck. Go play like 10 or 20 or 50 games. Try to beat Martin and see what happens. See you next time.